Look, I'm just gonna say it. People need to stop training less with their rifles or just any long gun in general and focus more on their CCW. The amount of times I've seen friends and colleagues come out to shoot in absolutely laser targets with their rifles only to struggle when transitioning to a CCW is a bit frightening to watch. Things like struggling to hit steel at questionable distances or stumbling to draw their weapon from concealment, especially considering how long they've been carrying. And look, this isn't just something I've noticed with the people I know. There's a huge problem in the 2A community that I believe doesn't get talked about enough. Way too many people who own and carry handguns simply just don't train or feel like they need to put that much time into mastering the handgun their life would depend on in a life-threatening situation. So in this video, I want to talk about the lack of training for concealed carry in the 2A community and why I believe it's become such a common issue over the past years now. So starting off with the place training is widely available for everyone to see and share. Social media. You'll notice there's hardly as much focus on CCW training as you might expect. It almost feels like the only time anything relating to concealed carry gets brought up is when someone's promoting a holster or insurance plan or posting their EDC gear and talking about what they're carrying that day. Which, to be clear, this isn't to bash on any of those pages that post this kind of content. I follow some of these pages. That's why I find it strange that when you click on these profiles, there's not a single video of them actually training with their CCW. Which makes me believe there's more of a focus on, hey, look what I carry, rather than, look, this is how I train to carry. Now, I'd give these people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe some people do train with their CCW and just don't post about it. I get it. Not everyone records or creates content showing themselves training. But these are pages focused on civilian training that mainly always focus on rifles, which that's fine. Rifle training is by far, in my opinion, the most popular type of training on and off social media. But here's my main two issues with that. And I know some people may not agree with my view on this, but it really doesn't take that much training to get good with a rifle. Rifles are inherently easy to shoot accurately as is because, well, you have more points of contact for stability, which helps control recoil and generally have better attachments / optics that add to your accuracy and control, which is why I say you don't need to spend nearly as much time training with your rifle as you should with your CCW. My second issue is I think this leaves a lot of people underestimating how critical it is to instead be training and mastering a weapon they're most likely to have in a life or death situation. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't train with a rifle. Rifle skills are important, but when it comes to practicality, how often are you realistically going to have a rifle with you? Unless you're carrying it in your vehicle at all times, and even if you are, it's not something you're going to have on you everywhere you go. Unless, of course, you carry a backpack rifle, which in that case you can defeat my argument. But let's be real, not saying it's a bad idea, but most people aren't driving with or walking around with a rifle everywhere they go. Your average 2A supporter is carrying a handgun with a spare mag at best, meaning you should be spending most of your time training with it, which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, training. Sure, people are going to the range and shooting, but if I'm being honest, a lot of people are just wasting time and money. Why? Because they're not making any real progress. Their aim is ass, their grip is sloppy, and they're shooting way too fast without mastering the basics first. And again, some of this I'm speaking from personal experience. I've been there. There were times I've gone shooting in the past just blowing through ammo with no purpose, which is just an awful way to train. Instead, what I should have done and currently do that I would recommend people to try out is figuring out what you need training on and work on those things. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just slow down and get back to the fundamentals, building a proper grip, developing a solid trigger control, and understanding sight alignment. There is no point in going to the range just to blow through ammo. Instead, focus on identifying mistakes and working to improve them before trying to shoot at further distances or shoot more rapidly. Because at the end of the day, shooting without correcting mistakes, all it does is reinforce bad habits rather than building good ones. And I understand that shooting can be expensive and not everyone has land to practice on, making it time consuming to go to the range. However, that shouldn't stop you from finding other ways to train and building good habits. Things as simple as just practicing your draw at home with the clothes you wear, paired with some dry firing, are free and super effective ways that only take a couple of minutes out of your day to see noticeable improvement. Also, if you have a backyard, you can set up a target and use a replica airsoft gun to train. Cool thing about this is some airsoft replicas feature things like blowback action, giving you a somewhat realistic feedback when you fire. And better yet, some of these replicas that are officially licensed by firearms manufacturers have similar dimensions matching the real firearms, which allow you to train with the same holster and gear you use for your concealed carry setup, making your practice more realistic and relevant to how you carry every day. Next, I want to talk about this thing that happens to some shooters where they settle too quick. They get comfortable with hitting a target accurately from a standing position at a reasonable distance and don't believe they need to push themselves further to improve their skills and think, well, that's good enough. And sure, that sounds good on paper, but the truth is, you're not always going to have a perfect stance, a clear line of sight, or the luxury of taking your time. That's why training needs to go beyond basic marksmanship. We need to challenge ourselves to shoot from uncomfortable positions while adding pressure with things like a shot timer, as well as running drills that simulate real-world scenarios that force us to react and think critically at a moment's notice. For example, practice something like holding a drink, a book, or an item you just purchased, and then train to drop it and draw your weapon. I really like doing these types of drills because they simulate real-world scenarios that I happen to be in all the time, where my hands happen to be occupied with something else. These drills help me to train to react quickly in order to be capable of drawing my weapon at a moment's notice. Now, another big reason for a lack of training is some people are just not motivated to train because they're not using a handgun that's right for them. When you're using a handgun that makes it difficult for you to hit a target, it can be hard to stay motivated, and I know this from personal experience. There was a time when I was carrying a handgun I was absolutely terrible with, and because of that, I hardly ever trained or pushed myself to improve with it. Now, something that really helped was just changing to something I was more comfortable with. So if you're someone that struggles to be accurate with a micro compact, maybe sizing up to a mid-size might be a better solution. Or for my case, it wasn't so much about sizing up, but instead getting a different pistol that fit better and offered more grip in my hands. Now, final reason to why some people just don't train, it simply comes down to they're lazy. Now, I can't speak for other generations because I wasn't alive to witness it, but I hear it all the time from older generations calling Gen Z lazy, which I agree. There is a huge problem with laziness, especially with younger generations that are getting into firearms and are carrying. They come up with all sorts of excuses. Oh, I can't because of this, or I just don't have time. Which, if that's the case, good thing we have technology that can track to see if that's true. Just take a look at your screen time and it will show you exactly where your time is spent. And surprise, hours spent scrolling through social media, binge watching shows, and consuming mindless content. And I get it, I do it too. I'm not here to act like all I do is train and never waste time consuming content. But the point I'm trying to make is we all have time. We just have to prioritize how we spend it, especially if you carry or are planning to carry a firearm. Make sure you're dedicating time to training with the gun you're most likely to have on you in order to be capable of defending yourself, as well as ensuring you are trained in carrying safely for the people around you. So that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe. Also, if you think you're not getting enough CCW training or ideas on how you could train on your feed, make sure to check out my Instagram at ShadowTheWicked. Also, if you want to get in contact with me, that's a great place. But other than that, hope you guys have a good weekend. Stay safe and God bless.